Okay, Zini.
Hello, everyone. Good morning from here. Good morning from West Africa. I want to say good afternoon to Jeremiah, the East African guys. And Jeff, someone is here with me. Good morning to you. Martins, I think is also known where you are. So good afternoon. So, thank you so much guys, for agreeing to do this with us today. This is episode 28. Um, iGaming Africa decided to bring us together today to talk about, demystifying the requirements for the iGaming market in the African iGaming market. There's been a lot of myths in this market. I want to tell investors that this is the fact and this is the thing to look out for when coming into our market. My name is Julie Veke, and I'm so humbled to be your moderator or your host today. Jeremiah will be co-hosting with me, of course. And this episode is brought to you by the very amazing team and people put together. So we're going to play an intro video to them. Thank you for coming on board with us for this episode. So please can we play our intro video first?
Okay, so Zini, thank you for that introduction, and we really appreciate that. So, of course, today we are having this 28th episode of the iGaming Africa webinars, where we are looking at some of the requirements for setting up an operation in Africa. And we are, of course, joined by an exciting list of panelists. The whole continent is represented. I can see somebody from Nigeria, of course, representing West Africa in the house. I can see somebody, actually more than one person from East Africa. Of course, that is Kenya. I can also see somebody from South Africa. So we are really looking forward to having an exciting session. But then before we start, it will be amazing that we dedicate a minute or two to appreciate the people or the brands that make this session a success. So please, 2 minutes for the sponsors. Okay, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for that. So we appreciate, of course, our sponsors, those companies and people that make this session a success. So please, thank you so much, Every Matrix, Thank you, Soft Swiss. Thank you, Digitain. Thank you, Chiron Interactive. Thank you so much, Track. Thank you, 1xBit. And again, of course, to our audience as well, we cannot forget you. So to start the session off, we'll start with the introductions. And then, of course, we'll dive deep into the discussion of the day. So allow me to give the panelists a minute to introduce themselves, and then we jump into it. Samuel, Job, Martin, and then Brian in that order.
All right. Good morning. Good morning, Jeremiah. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, fellow panelists. My name is Samuel Roland. I'm the Chief Operations Officer of the Lagos State Lotteries and Gaming Authority. Lagos State Lotteries and Gaming Authority is the pioneer gaming regulatory body in Nigeria. Thank you for this opportunity, and I hope to have a wonderful section. Thanks.
Thank you, Samuel. Job.
Okay, good afternoon from East Africa. My name is Job Weku. I'm the Business Development Manager Africa for Fazi. Fazi is a seasoned provider for top performing online casino games, and we deliver gaming enjoyment and exciting entertainment for all kinds of players. And our aim is to build trusted partnerships, superior support, and exceptional customer service for our clients. So, thank you.
Hi and welcome from Johannesburg. My name's Martin Sack. I'm a consultant in the gaming industry. I've operated globally in the African continent and in South Africa for the past 25 odd years. Welcome.
Thank you, Martin.
Good afternoon, my fellow panelists and all of those who are watching us. My name is Brian Ondieki, a gaming consultant based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm looking forward to a great session. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much, Brian. And my name is Jeremiah Maangi. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at iGaming Africa, and as well, the Managing Director for iGaming Consult Africa. Of course, these are brands that are supporting quite a number of businesses to, of course, start off in Africa. So without wasting any time, I think we will jump into the discussion for the day, and I will just give a brief introduction of what we are discussing here today. So this is an exclusive session which we are going to be talking about the requirements for setting up or starting an operation in the African continent. So before even we go into that, I would like somebody to give us a background to this conversation, and I'll allow Job to kindly introduce us to this session. Like, tell us what are some of the key items that you need to put up your mind before even thinking of starting a betting or gaming operation in Africa. Job, you're muted.
So thank you so much, Jeremiah. I think it's a very crucial topic, and it's going to provide a guiding factor on where to touch. You know, coming from an investor's point of view, I would like to know which African part I like to invest. What are the modalities? Foreseen profitabilities. So there are a couple of things that one has to look at. Now, one, we all know that iGaming is divided into different sections. So we have providers, we have operators, and we have consultants. Now, I'll probably just mention about operators. For anyone who wants to venture into the African market, one needs to know the sections. The sections of Africa that are actually legalize gambling. So we're talking about East Africa, West Africa, South Africa, Central Africa. We also have North Africa, but very limited countries because we only have, I think, Morocco and Tunisia. So these are the things that one ought to know. Then you also have to look at the GDP. just to gauge your profitability. You have to look at the population, because we all know that gambling is a game of numbers. You also have to look at what's required in terms of capital, minimum capitals for you setting up the business, whether it's online casino, whether it's land-based, or whether it's a lottery. We also need to look at jurisdictions which have probably restrictions on some certain certificates or require some certain certification, and others actually pinpoint to a certain particular certification company that they work with. So these are the things that one has to look at. Probably the other thing that I have to mention, which is very important when it comes to setting up a company, you have to look at the requirements. We have jurisdictions which purely discourage, foreigners from investing. So it's purely a local license market. Others are open to 100% foreign, entities. Others, you have to at least bring in a local to hold some certain percentages. So I guess with this, we'll get to know more once we get into a deeper discussion into this. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Job, for painting a very strong background to the discussion for the day, what somebody needs to know before, of course, even thinking about venturing into the African market. This should be the first question somebody should put in their minds before even thinking of launching an operation. I don't know if, Martin, you have something you can add on that, but then Job has touched on what you need to think of before even investing your money or thinking about coming to Africa. However, I would like to know how you can know this, because he has touched on how what you need to know, but then how? Because there is a lot of information that is on the internet. However, when you come to the African gaming space, you don't find a lot of it. Should you approach consultants? Should you go directly to the specific markets you are targeting, like on ground, visit the regulatory offices and get the information directly from there? Or should you call a few people who are already in the industry so that you can get the facts from the horse's mouth?
I think Jeremiah, and firstly, I'd like to say to you, happy birthday on this auspicious day. It's a beautiful thing that we're sharing it with you. I think all of the above, Jeremiah, is the truth. If you're coming into Africa, Africa is a different place. I mean, we're all different places within the whole of Africa, but Africa is a different continent. And I think if you don't put boots on the ground, if you haven't been to the place, it gets very, very, very hard to talk. Like any jurisdiction you go in, you do want to have a relationship with your regulators. You do want to meet them. You do need to make use of people that have knowledge and skills in the market here. You do need to be attending the various conferences in the markets. There's a Nairobi conferences. There are a number of them. And Jeremiah, I'm sure you'll tell us about yours coming up in May. But attend the conferences, meet the people, understand who you're working with, use consultants. There are people in each and every jurisdiction that know what they're doing. They're legal teams in each of those jurisdictions. There are amazing, amazing high quality lawyers. There's amazing consultants. There is skills here that you can use. Obviously, internet, the truth of the matter is, if you try to do internet searches on the gaming rigs in Africa, taxation rates, none of the GPTs are giving you a truly accurate and viable answer. It does get you boots on the ground. It does get you speaking to people who know what they are talking about.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Martin, for that background into the discussion. You have, of of course, added a few points to what Job said, which is important. And of course, I must say thank you so much for wishing me a happy birthday. I look forward to, of course, achieving great things together with like-minded individuals like yourself within the industry. And of course, I cannot forget to call on brands that are keen on the market to ensure that they are also giving Africans opportunities to work at their company. Even if you are sitting in Europe, I mean, your company is sitting in Europe, you need to have 2-3 people on ground so that they can be your foot soldiers and give you the real information that can even help you to be successful. So thank you so much for that. And that is my message on this day, which is very special and important to me. So, of course, we can move on to the next point, but then you remember that we were co-hosting this session with my good friend Zini, who is trying to get everything right with her camera. But then before that, Brian, you will appreciate the fact that research is an important aspect into starting an operation anywhere, not just in Africa, anywhere. And it doesn't have to be even in gaming, even if it is in another field. So I wanted to understand from your end, which are some of the techniques that you can use to get research right. Of course, we have heard from Martin that you need to be on ground or have somebody on ground so that you can get the information right, because whatever is on the internet may be outdated, and you would need updated information before you can launch an operation. I wanted to understand from yourself how research can be done right.
Yeah, as you know, Africa is a very big continent. We have like 54 countries, and you know, when you get someone who wants to come to Africa and he tells you like, I want to launch an operation in Africa, that's a very wide area. The most important thing when you're planning to launch in Africa is to identify the countries that you want to launch in. What are your targets? Like, are you trying to launch into an established market, a regulated market, an overregulated market, you know, a gray market? So there are different aspects that you need to look into. Especially like, for example, let's say you are planning to launch into a very regulated market, let's say like South Africa, and you need to do some research. Like, how much do you require, you know, in terms of capital, in terms of technology, in terms of the games, in terms of everything. So research is very important. And if you're planning to launch an operation in Africa, your first aspect should be research. And research is not about, you know, going to the internet, you know, reading some information that is on the internet. They come to Africa, attend events, and go to various events in Africa, uh, talk to consultants, visit the countries that you are targeting, understand their demographics in terms of population, internet, technology, their culture. So once you understand specific aspects, then and you look at your objectives, like what was my objective? Why do I want to launch in Africa? Based on the research that you've done, then you can now sit down and say, okay, now based on the research that I have done and my objectives, these are the countries that I can focus on. So that's why research is very important, especially when you're planning to launch in Africa. It will guide you to choose the right countries that you can launch your operations, and it can also guide you to launch with the right technology, with the right partners, and this will help your business uh, to be launched successfully. Yeah.
You know, Brian, for me, as you say that, there are a couple of key questions I look at when doing these things. The first one is, what's the regulatory environment in the country? Is it heavily regulated? Is it not? The second is the taxation levels in the country. Is it fair? Is it ridiculous? You need to understand that when you're choosing the actual target market that you're going to. payments. So how are you getting your money in and out to the clients? And more importantly, if you're a foreigner coming in, how are you repatriating your money out the country? And I think that's one that a lot of guys fall short on. They don't actually understand that before they get into a particular jurisdiction. Those are things that would be important for me when choosing one of those.
Okay. I know Martin has spoken for the gaming. I've also spoken for the East African market, but Africa is anything if not very huge, and we have different aspects of this African markets. Like Jeremiah mentioned earlier, we have the East, the West, the South, of course, and luckily for us, we have Samuel Roland here that can also speak for the West African, majorly for the West African market, Nigeria in consideration. So I'll throw this question to Samuel. Samuel, what do you think are the cost requirements for an investor that is looking at iGaming and betting market?
Thank you very much, Zini. It's been a wonderful section, and I love the way everyone has been putting, giving insight into the African market. I think for us in Nigeria, it's important to have sufficient funds. If you want to come into the country to run your business, you need sufficient funds, and you need adequate resources. Not just the funds alone. You also need to know the right people. Just like we've said earlier, you can come into the country and with a lot of funds, and if you don't have the right resources, if you don't have the right people, trust me, the business may go down. So it's important to have sufficient funds. You have a lot to do in terms of setting up, in terms of advertising and licensing and marketing. It cuts across a lot of things that you need to put in place. So um, I'm not a gaming consultant. I'm a regulator, but I would say for Nigeria, if you're coming into the sector, in the gaming sector in Nigeria, you should be looking at, roughly $2 to $3 million to for licensing, for setting up of your business, recruitment, uh, and all that, for um, for marketing, and even for winnings. So I think it's important to have this thing. But overall, just like I said, you have to have sufficient funds because it's also one of the requirements in Nigeria. You are coming into the gaming market. It's important to submit a proof of funds that yes, we have the funds to start to sustain the business. When you don't have those funds, you may not be able to get a license from the regulatory body.
Samuel,
Thank you very
if
much.
I can just run with you on that a little bit. I think what's clear is that there's two levels of funding. There's that which the regulatory authorities require, and South Africa, your good selves, a lot of the jurisdictions need to see some level of funds. But obviously, each market is different. Now, if we go into Nigeria, for example, whatever level of funding you as a regulator are looking for, it doesn't even come close to what it actually takes to operate in Nigeria. Nigeria, obviously, being a very, very competitive market with the highly skilled operators in. And I would say the same thing for South Africa as well. You need to come in with a decent amount of marketing budget, probably in Nigeria and South Africa more than you would in other countries. I think maybe in Angola and Mozambique, you could get away with a lot less of funds in marketing. The resources that you mentioned, I think, is absolutely key. One of the things I would recommend to anybody is to have marketing resources on the ground. At the very least, you need a marketing manager on the ground, a country manager to handle the in-country type advertising activations, things of that nature. You can't do this remotely.
That's very true.
Thank you so much, Martin and Samuel, for answering that question very well. However, I would like you to also break down this for us, like the dollars Samuel mentioned. How would you advise the investor that this money will be broken down? Because I understand that even in some of these markets, there is also a requirement of bank guarantee. And it is usually sometimes a crazy amount. In Kenya, they are proposing, of course, a change on that. But then I know that most countries actually the bank guarantee is almost similar. And Kenya, I know the proposed rate is around 400 million Kenya shillings. I would like to understand, like, the budget you are mentioning to us, is this bank guarantee also factored in, or these are other costs? And that is where now the point about you having even a reserve funds comes in. Samuel or Martin, please, if you can give us a breakdown of how the budget that an investor is coming into the market can be broken down into, like marketing, this percentage, this other aspect, this percentage, etc.
Well, let me speak for
All
the
right.
South African market. Okay, so one of the things I would advise clients coming into South Africa to operate, I tend to agree with Samuel, around the $2 to $3 million is probably the minimum investment I think someone coming to operate in South Africa should bring to the table. If they bring less than that, I personally think they're going to lose their money. Right, but of that number, all right. Look, South Africa, the licensing process isn't particularly exorbitant, and obviously, whichever platform you're going on, you have your platform costs on that. But for me, a budget of a 2 to 3 million in South Africa, it would probably be about a third on staffing, it would be a third on marketing, and the rest of it would be made up of platform fees and all the rest of the GGRs. Yeah, the boards do put requirements on operators to have a bank guarantee or funds in the bank, but that's almost negligible in the greater terms of things. Getting to market, getting players in the door, that gets expensive. The more we can do on that, the better you are.
Thank you for that. And maybe lastly, Martin, about the South African market, can you give us some rough estimates of the amount in quantity? Because you mentioned that the amount somebody can is supposed to have at least as a budget for setting an operation in South Africa is a bit different from what you will do in Nigeria, what you will need to have in Kenya, etc. Do you have any numbers you can give us, please?
Well, yeah, like I said earlier, I agree. It's probably about the $2 to $3 million. Listen, if you're coming in with Playtech, you need a entirely different budget than you need if you're coming in with BetConstruct, because your staffing and every other requirement is different. Yeah,
Thank you.
pretty much like I said.
Thank you. So this is an important question, because you can never get it right if you don't ask people who at least know. And I know that that on this panel today we have consultants who have consulted for some of the leading brands in Africa, and therefore the information that we are getting from them is quite almost close to being accurate. So let me come to Job and Brian. I know that the two of you are good consultants, especially from the East. And when you talk about markets like Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, I can see actually a question in the chat here from Nelson Katambo, who says that the Zambian market is actually underrated. So we can add Zambia to that list, markets like Mozambique, Botswana, etc. What will you say about these markets, and what does an investor need to have in their pockets if they are thinking of getting into this space? And please, if you can give us a breakdown, I would really appreciate. Job, you're muted. Let me. Okay, good. Job.
Okay, so thank you, Jeremiah. Now, when it comes to East Africa, we have Kenya, we have Ethiopia, we have Uganda, we have Tanzania. Rwanda is fairly new, but is also, opening up to the business. So maybe I'll just probably just touch on Uganda. You allow me to touch on Uganda and maybe Tanzania. So Uganda is not so bad. With a population of around 53 million, it's a promising market with a GDP of $64 billion. The minimum required capital in Uganda, I think it's close to like 260 million Uganda shillings. Someone can convert that into dollars for me. And it's open to both foreigners and locals to acquire a license. Mobile money is picking up, so mobile money is key in Uganda. We already have close to like 36 million accounts who've already registered for mobile money, and most of these guys are actually involved in betting. So I guess it's a good market. I can't break it down exactly on what you need in terms of marketing and what, but just to add on what my colleagues have mentioned, when it comes to marketing, you also need to consider, because Africa, it can be a little bit complex. So when it comes to marketing, you also need to look at jurisdictions which will actually allow you to consume a reasonable budget. Someone can tell you, like in Nigeria, some states you're not allowed to probably do online marketing. Google is totally locked out apart from Lagos. So you see, those are things that one ought to look at, because we all know Google is one of the best channels when it comes to acquisition for any operator. Tanzania, when it comes to the minimum investment, you're looking at around I think for close to like, I don't know, $300,000 USD. I mean, 300,000 USD. It's also open to local and foreigners. The minimum investment capital for a foreign company or a foreign entity would actually be high. We're talking about close to like $500,000. For the local, it's actually lower. So yes, in terms of taxation, Tanzania, it's a little bit complicated. There's a mix of land-based casino requirements. There's a mix of online casino requirements. Sports betting has its own, and virtual games has their own taxation. So for land-based casino, there's 18% and 12% on GGR and net winnings respectively. For online casino, there's 25% on GGR and 15% on net winnings. For sports betting, there's 25% on GGR. And virtuals, I believe there's 15% on net winnings and 10% on GGR. I think Brian can expound more on Kenya. For Zambia, just to answer Nelson, because Nelson says Zambia market is slept on and underrated. Somewhat correct. But if you look at Zambia has its own shortcomings, because we've had a couple of big brands who've actually ventured into Zambia and they've closed down. So it has its own shortcomings, but it's one of the largest markets as well in Africa. On to you, Brian.
Yeah, I would like also to comment on Zambia. I can say it's not slept on because we have big brands in Zambia. Recently, 3 Africa launched in Zambia like 2 years ago. They are doing well. We have brands like Bola Beto are doing very well in Zambia. So it's like I could say it's a tier two market. It's once you go below the Taiwan markets like Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Zambia is below them. So it's not underrated. I could say based on its potential, it's doing very well, and it's also well regulated. Okay, for Kenya, what I will say is a straightforward market. It's well regulated. You know, the terms for getting the loans are very clear. Although there have been a lot of changes in the regulation, especially in terms of taxes, but we hope it will stabilize soon, especially for the taxation. But for the latest acquisition, it's very stable. The prices are not very exorbitant. Like for example, getting like the sports bookmaker's license is it's less than $15,000 to get a license for foreigners, and for locals it's less than 10,000. So it's a straightforward process. Jeremiah mentioned something about the bank guarantee. You see, there are two different things. There's the bank guarantee and there's uh, proof of funds. Like if you go when you are looking for the license, as Samuel said, the regulator would like to see that you are capable of doing the operations. So they'll ask for proof of funds. Like maybe you can share like your bank statements. They can see how much maybe you've transacted in the last 1 year. And if they see that you are doing well, you have enough funds, then they'll have no issue. For the bank guarantee is just to secure the operations. Like you have to deposit a certain amount of money in a bank account, such that in case there is an issue with your operations, the money will be used to safeguard the interests of the players. And currently in Kenya, it's less than, especially for the bookmaker's license, it's about 250,000 Kenya shillings, which is about less than $2,000. They are planning to increase it to 100 million, which is about less than $1 million. But it looks like a huge amount, but it has not been approved yet. There are still discussions. But it's for protecting the players. You know, we've seen a lot of operators coming to the Kenyan market. They operate like for less than a year, then they close down, and it has been a challenge. I think that's why the regulators come up with a bank guarantee that will chase away like uh, operators who are coming in who are not prepared enough. So if you can afford to have like $1 million for the bank guarantee, then the regulator will be sure that you are ready to do the business successfully. Another thing you need to look at in the Kenyan market is the technology. We don't have like, unlike South Africa where there are specific providers that you can work with and be successful. Kenya is it's a open market. You need to have we have good internet connection, so you only need to have like a stable platform. And the most important thing is mobile money. M-Pesa is very dominant. You only need to ensure that you have the deposits and withdrawals are instant. That's a very important factor because players are used to depositing and withdrawing their money instantly. So if maybe you are using an aggregator who's a bit slow, it will be a challenge for you to attract players. And another thing is competition. Kenya is a very saturated market. We have over 200 licensed operators, although not all of them are active. So when you are coming in and you don't have enough funds for marketing, it will be a challenge for you. So you need to do your research, and also advertising is very regulated. There are only few channels for advertising. So you'll need to understand like if you are coming in, which channels are you going to use to advertise? What advantage are you going to provide that will push away players from uh, playing in the current operators to your new platform? So those are the things that you need to consider. Do your own research, especially for marketing. We are also in terms of consultations, use the right consultants. I know there are some consultants that might mislead you, and I know there are some operators that came into the market. They partnered with consultants that didn't have the right knowledge, and they ended up closing their businesses. So it's important when you are coming to the market, look for the right consultants, guys with knowledge. They will help you understand the Kenyan market. It's not very complicated once you get the right information, and you will find that you don't need a lot of funds to break through the Kenyan market once you have the right information, right partners, and the right technology. So that's what I could say about the Kenyan market.
Okay.
Just to add on, Jeremiah, just to add on what Brian has mentioned, there's a positive change, at least in the Kenyan market. Before, we used to have a very punitive tax regime, but now things are shaping up. It's not so good, but at least it's fair. Withholding tax was reduced from 20% on winnings to 5%, and now it's only applicable on withdrawals. We had excise duty, which was being fixed at 12.5%. It's now reduced to 5%. And then we have the GGR tax, which is still at 15%. So it's a positive thing, because we're also seeing some of the operators who had closed shop coming back, to renew the license and continuing with operation. So it's actually a good move. Positive things are happening in Africa. We've seen Ghana just recently, where the new president decided to abolish taxation on betting, so that 10%, which was, I think, with the holding tax, was removed, and it's actually opening doors to potential investors in Ghana as well. So good things in Africa.
I think there are a number of markets that are doing really nicely in Africa. Ghana is a favorite of mine. Mozambique's a favorite of mine. Angola's a favorite of mine. Nigeria always scares me, because you really got to know what you're doing when you go into that market. But there are amazing places here. And South Africa, of course, for me, is one of the really, really interesting jurisdictions in Africa. I mean, we're sitting at 6.5% tax on average on sports betting and online, and call it a 6% withholding tax on horse racing. I mean, that's not even numbers compared to some of the tax rates you've got up in Africa. And I think the fiscus benefits very well out of that particular tax rate. Having said that, when it then comes to technology, we're sitting with a whole bunch more requirements. I think it's probably harder to get certified or your product certified in South Africa than it is pretty much harder than anywhere else in Africa. Most of the rest of the Africa, provided you got a GLO 19 or thereabouts, you're in a good place. South Africa makes it's a really complex jurisdiction to get your product certified. And obviously the houses can search out BMM, GLI, the usual suspects can help you get certified here. But there are things that you have to you do have to work at and change and be cognizant of.
Okay. Thank you so much, Martin. I think that question has really been answered perfectly well. So the next thing we do, and I had a comment on what Brian said about the requirement on like a bank guarantee. So basically, the amount might sound like a crazy amount, but then from what Brian said, I want to believe it means that you don't necessarily need to have that money in your bank account. What needs to happen is you need to go to your bank and get your bank to write you some form of a letter or something confirming that they can guarantee you that amount. And in case, let's say a player wins a jackpot and you need that money urgently, the bank can be able to support in that. So before we move to the next question, I'd like to bring to your attention that the iGaming Africa Summit 2026, which was recently announced, is still on. And actually, some good news is that the interest in the event has seen us actually get more space, that is exhibition space, at the venue where we will be hosting the event. So we are looking forward to welcoming as many partners and brands as possible to come on board, because this event is a purely organic event. We have grown our platform organically, and therefore all those brands and people you expect to see there, C-levels, etc., are people who have been following our brand for long, and they know what value you can get from iGaming Africa. So I'd like us to dedicate like a few minutes to listening to the press release that was announced when we were announcing the event. And then, of course, we can move into the next question. And then, of course, the rest of the session will be taken up by my co-host, Zini Eke. So please, a few minutes. The inaugural iGaming Africa Summit is poised to make history in Nairobi, Kenya, as the largest and most influential gaming industry gathering ever hosted on the African continent. Taking place at the expansive Sarit Expo Center, this groundbreaking event will bring together gaming professionals from over 100 countries, offering a truly global platform for networking, innovation, and strategic dialogue. With over 3,500 delegates, 100 plus speakers, 500 plus operators, 100 plus exhibitors and sponsors anticipated, the iGaming Africa Summit will serve as a pivotal convergence point for industry leaders and innovators. The summit is set to distinguish itself as Africa's first ever free entry gaming event. Attendees can opt for premium and platinum passes that unlock enhanced access, including exclusive networking events, private meeting rooms, full conference hall entry, VIP center access, and a spectacular closing party. The event begins with an inspiring safari tour offering a blend of Kenya's breathtaking wildlife and unique cultural immersion. Set in the heart of Nairobi, the Sarit Expo Center hosts over 3,300 square meters of state-of-the-art exhibition space, and making it the perfect venue to display the future of iGaming in Africa's gaming industry. This summit signifies our commitment to fostering growth, collaboration, and innovation across the African gaming landscape. Thank you so much, and I can now, of course, say that officially the iGaming Africa Summit 2026 is officially launched. Thank you for that, and of course, welcoming you to the beautiful, beautiful city of Nairobi. And for your information, Kenya removed most of the visa requirements for anybody traveling to this event. So, of course, you should now go get your tickets. The event is happening between the 4th and 6th of May, that is 2026. A lot awaits. The email on screen is the contact you can, of course, reach our events team through. So we look forward to hearing from you, of course. So Zini, please, I welcome you to take on the rest of the session.
I hope you guys can hear me. I don't know, for some reason today my internet has decided to not be my very good friend.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so I hope we'll just pick up from where we left up. Samuel, please, if you, if you can hear me, please nod your head. At this point, I'll just be going by signs. I think I want to direction to you because it's about regulation. This is actually one of the huge factor to consider in every sector. And I think in one of our previous episodes, we talked about some of the new regulations that were put in place in the Nigerian, you know, markets for investors and for people coming in. But then we want to take a broader look in terms of regulation across countries and different, you know, African markets. What should people look out for? What are the different regulations that, you know, are in this market people need to look out for, and especially specifically Nigeria also. And if you also have the knowledge in other African countries to share with us, or we can throw it to Martins and Brian to speak for other sector. But if you can also speak across the Africa, that would be nice in terms of regulations.
And maybe before Samuel,
Thank you.
before sorry Samuel,
Okay.
before you jump on that, of course, I would like to invite our audience to share any questions you might have to any of the panelists or even to the moderators. If you have any question, please be free to ask that, and then at the end of this session, we will sample some of those questions, of course, to our panelists. So, Samuel, before again you speak, I know there is some news we got from Nigeria that recently the Supreme Court of Nigeria actually had ruled that the states are at the top when it comes to regulating matters gambling or gaming in their respective states. But then I understand that there is a process that is ongoing, which is in Parliament, and it's actually in its third reading. And that means that most likely this will become law. And what this means will be like whatever the Supreme Court ruled will be overturned just by changing the law. We would like to get your perspective on this because, again, it heavily touches on the point of the subject of discussion today, whereby we are trying to look at some of the things you need to be wary of before you even start launching in some of these African countries. And I know this can be a setback when things are changing over and over within a very short period of time. And considering that this is somebody who is coming in to invest a lot of money in a market that they are not sure of what will happen tomorrow. Please, can you tell us what you think about this? And then the rest of the panelists can also jump in and add something on that kindly. Samuel, on to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. With respect to regulatory landscape, what I would say is that Africa regulatory landscape is complex and it varies across countries. It varies across jurisdiction, and it's stemming towards the legal framework, enforcement capacity, cultural norms. So these are the things that makes regulatory landscape very, very complex. Now, each country, based on what I've seen, have their own regulatory framework. Nigeria, on its own, like a federating state, has its own regulatory framework. And before now, it was the federal government and the state government that regulate gaming activities in Nigeria, up until November last year, when the Supreme Court gave the judgment that gaming activities falls within the purview of states, and the state should be the one to regulate gaming activities. So which means I, as an investor, I can decide to say, I'm coming into Nigeria, but I've done my research and I'm looking at which state can I start this business from. And I decide to either go to Lagos, either go to River State, either go to Oyo State, and all that. Now, each of all these states has its own regulatory requirements, right? And I would say that it's important to understand that there are some requirements, some compliance requirements that um, uh, an investor should take note of when coming into the gaming sector in Nigeria. You know, this requirement spans across um, setting up of companies. You need to uh, uh, meet the requirement of the Corporate Affairs Commission. So that talks about the structure your of your gaming company. We have the requirement of the regulatory body, which is, for example, Lagos State has the Lagos State Lotteries and Gaming Authority Law 2021. So an investor, it's important if you're coming to the Lagos State Lotteries and Gaming Authority, you're coming to Lagos State, you should ensure that you are in compliance with all the provisions of this law. We also have the AML CFT laws. The body in charge of this particular law is the Special Control Unit on Money Laundering, that is KUMU, and we have the NFIU, which is the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit. So, as an investor, as a gaming operator, there are things you are expected to always do, do to all these agencies. For example, for SCUMO, it's important for you to submit your report on currency transaction and also cash-based transaction. And for the NFIU, suspicious transaction reports and suspicious activity report. So these are the requirements, these are the regulatory requirements that an investor is expected, to provide, to submit the things you are required to do. Apart from the AML, we also have the Nigerian Data Protection Act. The body in charge is the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. So your job is to ensure that you register a registration and annual audit. So we also have responsible gaming regulation. We have advertisement act. We have all these general acts that, as an investor, you are expected to ensure that you comply with, right? So overall, it's important to ensure that you do uh, your research, you find the right people. I'll continue to emphasize that. You need to find the right people that understand the Nigerian market, that would guide you on, how to come in, how to set up, and how to sustain your business in the country. So that's very, very important. For Nigeria, after the judgment from the Supreme Court, every state has been conducting regulating gaming activities. Yet, because of, in Nigeria, we have about 36 states, and what it means is every state should have its own regulatory body. And because of the difficulty in going to about 36 states to obtain gaming license, all the states are coming together to form an association called the Federation of the State Gaming Regulator. Now, this body is the body that would issue a singular license. Now, once this license is issued by this body, that license would cover for every state, that allows gaming activities in their state. So that would ease the way of doing business. So instead of an investor to go to say about 10, 20, 30 states to obtain license, you can just get this license from the Federation of State Gaming Regulators that comprises of all the states of the country, and issue one singular license that covers the entire business, either online or retail in the country. So these are development that has been going on. Of course, the states are aware that there's currently a central gaming bill that is being passed and being read at the National Assembly. But then we believe that Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is the grand norm. Once is the apex court in the country. Once it gives its direction, once it gives its judgment, that is it. So of course, the bill that is currently being read will be tested. There'll be the matters will be discussed. It will be taken. Legal action will be taken and all that. But I believe and I know that once the Supreme Court says this is it, that is what it is. So basically, I think that's what
Okay,
I can
so
say about the landscape in Nigeria. Thank you.
okay, Samuel. Okay, Samuel. Since we still have you, and you mentioned unification, I just want to get your view on this before we. What's your view on that? There have been conversation, of course, also some moves in trying to have a unified regulation across continents. So now this is not just only in Africa, across other continents. Let's have one, regulation that covers all this market. What's your view on that?
Thank you very much. I think for me, just like I said earlier, uh, regulatory landscape in Africa is complex, and because of the factors that cause across cultural norms, religion, and all that, we may not be able to achieve a unified framework at this time. But I think what is important for me is reciprocity. And that is what Nigeria is currently preaching. Now we're looking at having a reciprocity enforcement across not just even Nigeria. The Lagos State Lotteries and Gaming Authority has signed a memorandum of understanding with Malta Gaming Authority, with Gambling Commission of UK. So if any operator is coming from the UK and is entering into the Nigerian market without the license that is required to operate, UK Gambling Commission can take it up for us because that operator is licensed in their jurisdiction. So to me, I think it's more of reciprocity, because I have a license I have an operator in your jurisdiction and is flouting the law in my jurisdiction because of the relationship between the regulators. You can take it up for me and sanction that operator, and that is going to put the operator back, to what it should do. So that is my opinion on having a unified regulation or regulatory framework.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to, because I know we're we have eaten 2 minutes into our time, and I think we still have about 10 minutes more from the host. So would like to start with Brian. Closing remarks. But if there's any area you feel like we haven't touched on that you also want to quickly and briefly just touch on for us and also expatiate on, would also appreciate that in your closing remark.
Yeah, I would like to respond
Sorry,
first. I
sorry,
would like to
sorry,
respond to. I'd like to
sorry,
respond
Bran.
to
There is
Humphrey.
also a question. Sorry, Bran. There is a question in the audience I would like you to answer as you give in your closing remarks. I'll bring it up on the screen because it is a field you are strong on. How profitable are betting shops in Kenya, and how is it possible
Okay.
to start with physical shops and later transition to an online betting platform? This is a question from Humphrey Gitonga. Bran, sorry for interrupting. Please move on.
Yeah, a good question from Humphrey. Betting shops in Kenya, Kenya is largely mobile or online, I could say. There are a few betting shops, but you cannot compare to countries like Uganda and Ethiopia, where betting shops are very popular. So it will be difficult, especially if you want to start with only betting shops, then you go online. But again, it depends on uh, your finances. If you feel like you should start from betting shops, then you go online. It's also a good venture, but it will be a bit slower. It's better if you start with online. Then once your online grows, then you can now venture into physical betting shops later on. But if maybe you are targeting markets like Uganda and Ethiopia, where retail betting is very popular, you can start with betting shops. I understand that in Ethiopia they were banned. The government banned retail betting shops, but there are some operators who are operating underground. And Uganda also is very popular in retail betting. But for Kenya, it's I could say it's not like it's not like a very most guys play online because of internet and also M-Pesa. So it's not something that is very popular currently. So that's what I could like to respond to Humphrey. Uh, my final thoughts I could mention, especially on taxation. I understand, like, if you look across Africa, most countries are trying to get the right ways of taxing the gaming industry. So it's the African gaming market is less than 15 years old in most of these countries. So it's the regulators and the government are still learning. They are trying to find ways of collecting taxes from this industry. So let's give them time, and I'm sure in the next like 5 years we could have like a stable taxation environment across Africa. Yeah, that's what I could say.
Um, maybe just to add on some things which might also be like my closing remarks. So, a couple of things that are very ugly when it comes to the African market. We have jurisdictions which force, foreign applicants to include local participation, and you're forced to relinquish, part of your shares to this local. So one has to be very careful. You need to get proper vetted nominees. So you need to get very good partners who are going to, take you through these hurdles and do proper vetting and get you persons who are, trusted, and they're not going to mess you up in future. Then in Africa, you also need to look at the mode of business. As people, I mean, as my colleagues have mentioned, we have online, we have retail, and we have various activities. And online, there's there's sports and there's online casino. And our retail, we have so many messy activities which are really, getting backlash from most of these African countries. So you have to be very careful on what mode of business you want to run, and then also look at the restrictions and regulations to do with that particular mode of business. We also have you know, different licensing types varying from country to country. We have countries which which issue a unified license, which carries both sportsbook and casino, and we have others who actually do a split. So one ought to be very careful not to end up getting probably as a license which is purely on sportsbook and not touching on casino, and thinking that it's a license which covers both online casino and online sport. So you have to be very careful, because you have instances where investors have been conned, only happening to land on a license which is limiting them only to sports, and yet they've spent crazy amounts of money knowing that they're getting a license which covers both sports and online casino. The other thing that one needs to factor is the tenure of the license. We have jurisdictions which will offer you a license for 1 year, a license for 5 years, others for 10 years, others renewable, others, I won't explain. So one needs to also factor that. Then the other thing is the mode of the application of the license. Most of the African countries, just provide an open application, and then you'll get others which restrict you, to a tendering process. So you have to tender for you to get, that particular license. So you ought to be very careful who you're dealing with and how he's going to, acquire that license for you. Then the other thing is the type of company for you to incorporate. Some jurisdictions limit you to, incorporating a PLC. Others will are open to a limited company. Others to private entities. So these are some of the factors that one has to be very careful. Just to add on what others have mentioned, one has to be very careful when it comes to venturing in the African market, and this actually applies to both local investors and foreign investors. The other thing is, the last thing is, you also need to look for the right partners, and I'm talking about providers for online operators. We have very many cloned systems in Africa. They're really running in the African market. So you need to be very careful and come up with a good provider who's going to, ensure that you get proper revenues with tested algorithms, which will ensure profitability. Yeah, and that is where Fazi comes in. So thank you.
Ah, closing remarks. All right. For me, it's fairly simple. I think Africa is an exciting continent to work. I think we are a target for many, many people to want to enter. I think there is money to be made in this continent. I think in many of the individual countries and jurisdictions, there is money to be made. I think just the main thing is do your homework, do your research, understand the regulations, understand the taxation, understand everything you would do as an operator anyway in any other jurisdiction in the world where you come in here. And yeah, I think everybody here is available. If you want to get hold of us, have a chat with us, catch us on LinkedIn, and more than happy to have a chat and talk and answer any questions for anybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. Do you wanna add to that? Or
Sure. To close this conversation for me, I think what I would need to say is, first of all, Nigeria is the gaming market in Nigeria is highly open and competitive, and there are no monopoly in Nigeria. A company can be leading today, and tomorrow another company can come up with a very great strategy and is up there taking the lead. So there are no monopolies in the country. The country is highly regulated, and there are no the market is very competitive. So I think I should touch base on this Nigeria and local content. So for Nigeria, what we'd say is that for any foreign company setting up in the Nigerian market, there should be at least minimum of 15% local share holding in the company. But then, over the year, we've observed that sometimes having a local content in your organization for a foreign-based company can be very, very stressful. So what the regulator has done, particularly Lagos State Lotteries and Gaming Authority, is to say that you don't really need to have a local shareholder in your organization. All you just have to do is to provide a bank guarantee uh, or surety bond in the sum of 50 million naira, and I think that should be around $30,000. So what this does is to in the event there are liabilities by the operator to the regulator, or maybe there are winnings that the operator is unable to pay, the regulator reserves the power to use this guarantee, to sort out all these liabilities for the operator. So I think Nigeria is quite flexible and easy and good with that. In terms of taxes, I think for a gaming company, our taxes are not so much. They're ranging between types of taxes actually that is required to be paid by a gaming operator includes the VAT, which is 7.5%. Uh, Also, the withholding tax on winnings, and that is 5%. I think that is currently in discussion between the Association of Nigerian Bookmakers, the regulator, and the Internal Revenue Service. It's important to discuss the implementation and to see, to ensure that it's not going to affect the operator as well as the the business of gaming. So that is currently under discussion. There's also the gaming tax. Right now in Lagos State, gaming tax for sport books and is about 11% of GGR. We have other license categories that cut across 2.5% for interactive games and peer-to-peer games. We have about a 10% for lottery games. So the taxes ranges from different license categories. We also have the company income tax, which is around 20 to 30% per annum, depending on your turnover. Then we have the pay as you go for your employees. So basically, these are the taxes that is required for a gaming company to pay when setting up in the country. To end my conversation, I think I need to touch base very quickly on what you need to be wary of when you want to come into the Nigerian space to set up a company. These are the advice that I would always give people. That it's important to ensure that your product and platform is accessible and runs smoothly on local internet infrastructure. That is very, very important for you when you're coming into the Nigerian market. Your system, your solution should run smoothly on local internet infrastructure. Another important factor is to ensure that your content are localized. You should adapt your platform and products to local languages and cultural references. So this is going to increase appeal and engagement with the Nigerian gamers. It is very, very important. Another thing is to ensure that your product fits the market. Whatever you're bringing to the market, ensure you do your research, speak to people that understand the market, the games you want to bring in. Right now it's crash games that is taking over the market. So you need to ensure that your market fits the Nigerian players. And the key thing is you have to build trust. It's important for you to build your trust and ensure that winnings are paid to players when due. They need their payment as soon as they win. They can lose, it's okay, but when they win, you need to pay them immediately. Another thing is ease of purchase of tickets and the frequency of winnings, which is your return to player. You have to ensure that your players are winning. If I play your game a lot and there are no winnings, I will not come back to you. Above all, it's important to identify the most used marketing channel in the country. At a point, there's a program that runs in the country. It's Big Brother Nigeria. I don't know if everyone knows it. Our gaming operators took advantage of this, sponsored this program, and it was a great marketing tools for them. So it's important when you're coming into the gaming industry in Nigeria, you identify the most used marketing channel, and that is what you go for. So that is what I need to say about the Nigerian market. The market is very competitive. There are no monopolies. We have a big population and about 237 million population. And on a daily basis, we have around 168 million bettors, which accounts for about 71% of gaming participants. So the Nigerian market continues to rise, continues to be grow big, internet penetration, smartphone availability, high youthful demographic. So thank you very much once again.
Okay, Brian.
Thank you so much, Samuel. Um, Jeremy, to say, okay,
No.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, to conclude, I would like to mention a few things about the Kenyan market and also the East African market in general, and also add to what Job had said. For the Kenyan market, uh, most of the aspects that Samuel has said also apply to the Kenyan market, localization and everything. But also another thing that I would like to add on is the customer care. Like I discovered that most brands, especially the international brands, have not localized their customer care. They are maybe using bots. They don't have like enough staff for customer care, and it's mostly a turn off for Kenyans, especially when I ask something from a platform and then the response comes in maybe maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. It's usually a turn off, and also payments and the product itself. It's maybe if it's hanging, you are using cloned games. Those are the aspects that new operators should look to. So make sure your product is okay, it fits the Kenyan market, the payment system is working well, and yeah, you will scale well in the market. And for other markets like maybe Uganda and Tanzania, it's the same aspects. You need to ensure your product fits the like maybe in Uganda, especially the internet. Make sure your product is very light, and also in Tanzania, Swahili is the most preferred language. So make sure you localize your language, and even in your advertisements, you use language that the players can understand, and it will help you to scale. So that's what I could say for the East African market.
All right, thank you so much, guys. But before we go, I think has thing to say to close up. Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, we are coming to an end in the next 3 minutes. So I would also like to mention maybe one thing that we forgot to talk about. Things like cryptocurrency are gaining traction, and it is very important that those who are having crypto platforms to watch the space very closely. Right now in Kenya, there is a bill that is being drafted to regulate cryptocurrency. And, once it's regulated, it becomes lawful to use it as an asset on your platform that can enable punters to, of course, deposit and withdraw their funds. And then something else very important is that please, anybody who wants to come to this market, know that we have over 50 countries. I was surprised sometimes back talking to a friend of mine in a European event, and he was telling me that Africa is a country. You need to know that there are over 55 countries in Africa, and Africa is not, the gaming industry is not just happening in like Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Nigeria. No, there are markets like Congo, DRC. There are markets like Ivory Coast. There are markets like Angola, which you must also look at. So when you speak to companies or individuals that know the space well, they can help you, of course, to get reports and statistics and stuff like that about the other markets. So, of course, we appreciated the sponsors for the webinar. I would also like to appreciate the company iGaming Consult Africa, which powered the session. So I'll just play a very small advert, and then we appreciate the sponsors for the last time, and then we close it. Thank you so much. We are privileged to have the CEO of iGaming Consult in the house as well, Job Weku, who also works for Fazi as the lead business development manager. So please, if you have any questions about consultancy, you can approach any of the people on the screen, because we have been in the space and we know exactly what you need to know before you venture into any of these markets. And then lastly, please, we will end with the clip from our sponsors. And thank you so much to our panelists for an amazing session. Thank you so much, Zini, for moderating or co-moderating the session with me. And we really appreciate the interest in the African market, which has been really growing. And of course, we are here to guide you in case you need any assistance. So thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to the audience. And a kind reminder that Nairobi is calling May 4th to 6th, 2026. Thank you once again, and all have a great day.